G'day folks, it's Rico here. Well, today I've come down to Tough Dog's headquarters to show you step by step just how much work goes into Tough Dog's range of pre-assembled IFS struts. Now we've got one of their resident gurus on hand to show us how to do the job, but before we get stuck into it, please remember, this is not a job for the backyarders. It requires some very specialised equipment, so don't try this one at home. The team at Tough Dog have foam cell struts to suit almost any application, and they're available with a variety of different rate coil springs to suit your application. When ordering struts for your four-wheel drive, always remember the golden rule. Make sure you've fitted any accessories, such as a bull bar or winch, before you fit your suspension. Okay, let's take a look at how the boys put their struts together. Start by firstly fitting the coil spring into the coil spring compressor and compress the coil enough to allow the shock absorber shaft to come well past the top of the coil. Next up, grab your washer and fit this to the shock absorber shaft. This is a critical step in the assembly process, and if you leave the washer out, the strut will almost certainly fail in a very short time frame. Now, simply slide the strut into the coil by sliding it up from the bottom. Make sure the threaded section is well clear of the top of the coil spring. With the strut in place and you've double checked that the washer is fitted to the shaft, you can grab the top hat assembly and fit it to the strut. Okay, now it's time to fit the top washer and nut. You'll need a shifter to hold the tab at the top of the shock shaft while you tighten the nut. The second critical point in the assembly procedure is to ensure that this nut is done up very tight. A handy tip is to have the strut fully extended and drooping below the compressed coil. This will ensure that the nut is done up all the way home. Take note of the fully compressed bush. This is a good sign that you've got the top nut done up properly. Now, it's simply a case of aligning the top hat assembly correctly with the lower bush and then carefully releasing the tension on the coil. Well, there you have it. Troy's shown us just how simple it is to do if you've got the right tools. Now, there's a couple of very critical points along the way if you are going to have a crack at this yourself. The first one is to make sure that that bottom washer is on before you do the assembly. It's absolutely critical to the life of the strut. The second key point is to make sure that that top nut is done up super tight and you've cranked on it as hard as you possibly can. Make sure it's all the way home. The third thing is you must have the right tools for the job, and dodgy old spring compressors like this are not up to the task. At best, it's going to end in a trip to hospital. At worst, a trip to the morgue. Now, if you don't have the right tools for the job, don't stress. The boys at Tough Dog sell all of these strut assemblies, complete, ready to go, pre-assembled for just about every popular make and model there is. To find out more, simply head to toughdog.com.au.